Beauty is not something we collect. It is something that changes us. It lives in silence, in ancient stone, in skies touched by prayer and light. Travel is not escape, it is remembrance. It reminds us how wide the world is, and how small our fears are. Turkey is a land where history breathes, where nature speaks softly, and where every journey feels like a conversation with life itself. These places are not just seen, they are felt. Cappadocia, Turkey. Cappadocia feels like a place imagined by dreams rather than built by time. Soft valleys rise into fairy chimneys shaped by wind and centuries of silence. At dawn, the sky fills with floating balloons, moving slowly like thoughts you don't want to lose. Ancient cave homes and churches hold stories of survival, faith, and creativity. Standing here teaches patience. It reminds us that even fragile land can become powerful, and even quiet places can lift the soul higher than words ever could. Pamukkale, Turkey. Pamukkale appears like frozen clouds resting on the earth. White terraces spill gently down the hillside, filled with warm mineral water that reflects the sky. Walking barefoot feels calming, almost healing. The air is light, the silence deep. Ancient ruins nearby remind us that people have always searched for peace and renewal. Pamukkale teaches that softness can be strong, and that life sometimes asks us to slow down, breathe, and allow ourselves to be restored.
Istanbul, Turkey.
Istanbul exists between continents and between moments. Minarets rise beside the sea, and history flows through every street. The Bosphorus glows under shifting light as boats glide between Europe and Asia. The city hums with life, prayer, music, and memory. Istanbul shows that identity does not have to be singular. It can be layered, complex, and beautiful. It reminds us that standing between worlds is not confusion, it is richness. Mount Nemrut, Turkey. At the peak of Mount Nemrut, giant stone heads rest beneath the open sky. They watch silently as the sun rises and sets, bathing the mountain in gold. Wind moves freely here, and the world below feels distant. This place speaks of ambition, legacy, and the desire to be remembered. Standing among these statues makes time feel small. Mount Nemrut reminds us that human dreams are fragile, but the courage to dream is eternal. Antalya Coast, Turkey. The Antalya Coast is where turquoise water meets dramatic cliffs and endless sunlight. Ancient cities rest beside modern beaches, blending history with ease. Pine forests scent the air, and the sea glows with calm energy. Life feels unhurried here. It teaches balance between rest and exploration, between past and present. Antalya whispers that happiness does not need to be complicated. Sometimes it is simply warmth, water, and the freedom to breathe deeply. Ephesus, Turkey. Ephesus walks quietly through the remains of a powerful civilization. Marble streets lead past grand libraries, theaters, and temples touched by time. Sunlight reflects off ancient stone, creating a soft golden glow. Every step feels like listening to echoes of voices long gone. Ephesus teaches humility. It reminds us that greatness fades, but meaning remains. Life is not about permanence, it is about impact, memory, and the stories we leave behind. Uludeniz, Turkey. Uludeniz feels like peace made visible. A calm blue lagoon rests beside the open sea, surrounded by green mountains. Paragliders float silently above, drifting like birds through warm air. The water is clear, gentle, and endlessly inviting. This place teaches surrender to beauty, to calm, to the present moment. Uludeniz reminds us that freedom does not always mean movement. Sometimes it means stillness. Sumala Monastery, Turkey. Clinging to a steep mountainside, Sumala Monastery feels suspended between earth and sky. Mist moves through the forest, wrapping the stone structure in mystery. The silence here is powerful, broken only by wind and distant water. Built with devotion and courage, this place speaks of faith and determination. Sumala reminds us that even in the most difficult places, humans find ways to believe, endure, and rise above fear. Lake Van, Turkey. Lake Van stretches wide and quiet beneath open skies, its deep blue waters reflecting distant mountains. The air feels clean and ancient, carrying stories older than memory. Small islands rest gently on the surface, crowned with historic churches that stand in peaceful isolation. Life slows here. Lake Van teaches stillness and perspective, reminding us that vastness does not need noise to feel powerful. Sometimes, calm is the greatest form of strength. Göbekli Tepe, Turkey. Göbekli Tepe changes how we understand history. Massive stone pillars rise from the earth, carved with symbols older than civilization itself. There is a deep silence here, as if the land is holding secrets it will never fully reveal. Standing among these stones feels humbling. Göbekli Tepe reminds us that humanity's story began long before we imagined, and that curiosity and belief have always guided us forward. Safranbolu, Turkey. Safranbolu feels like time decided to slow down. Ottoman houses line narrow streets, their wooden balconies leaning gently over stone paths. The scent of history lives in the air, warm and familiar. Life here feels simple and grounded. Safranbolu teaches appreciation for tradition and balance, reminding us that progress does not mean forgetting where we came from. There is beauty in preservation and comfort in continuity. Mount Ararat, Turkey. Mount Ararat rises alone and powerful, its snow-covered peak touching the sky. The landscape around it feels vast and silent, shaped by myth and faith. Clouds move slowly, and the mountain stands unshaken. This place speaks of endurance and belief. Mount Ararat reminds us that some dreams feel distant, almost unreachable, yet they guide us. Simply by existing, strength does not always move, it stands. Butterfly Valley, Turkey. Hidden between steep cliffs, Butterfly Valley feels untouched and secret. The sea glows in shades of blue and green, and waterfalls slip quietly into the land. When butterflies appear, the valley feels alive with gentle magic. This place teaches retreat and renewal. Butterfly Valley reminds us that stepping away from the world can help us return to it more fully, lighter and clearer than before. Mardin, Turkey. Mardin rises in golden stone along a hillside overlooking wide plains. The city glows warmly at sunset, blending seamlessly with the landscape. Cultures, languages, and faiths meet quietly here, sharing space and history. Walking its streets feels thoughtful and reflective. Mardin teaches coexistence and grace, reminding us that beauty grows when differences live together in respect and silence. Kos, Turkey. Kos rests peacefully along the Mediterranean, small and sincere. White houses overlook deep blue water, and boats drift gently in the harbor. Life moves slowly, guided by sunlight and sea breeze. There is no rush here, only presence. Kos reminds us that happiness often hides in simplicity, in quiet mornings, honest places, and moments that ask nothing more than attention.
Ani Ruins, Turkey.
Ani stands empty yet powerful on the edge of a vast plain. Broken churches and walls rise against the open sky, carrying echoes of a once great city. Wind moves freely through arches, telling stories without words. Ani teaches humility and reflection. It reminds us that time takes everything, but meaning remains for those who pause to listen. Lake Salda, Turkey. Lake Salda glows with soft white shores and clear turquoise water, surrounded by gentle hills and open sky. The silence feels pure, almost otherworldly. Walking here feels like stepping onto another planet, yet deeply grounded at the same time. This place teaches clarity. Lake Salda reminds us that beauty does not need decoration. When life is stripped down to its simplest form, peace often appears naturally. Bozcaada, Turkey. Bozcaada floats quietly in the Aegean Sea, shaped by wind, light, and patience. Stone houses, vineyards, and narrow streets carry a relaxed rhythm of life. The sunsets here feel personal, as if painted just for you. Bozcaada teaches acceptance and ease. It reminds us that living slowly is not wasting time. It is learning how to truly feel every passing moment. Uzungal, Turkey. Uzungal rests gently among green mountains, wrapped in mist and reflection. A wooden mosque stands by the lake, mirrored perfectly in still water. The air smells of rain and pine trees, Life feels soft here, almost whispered. Uzungal teaches contentment, showing that peace often lives far from noise, in places where nature leads and humans follow quietly. Fethi, Turkey. Fethi balances ancient history with open horizons. Lishan rock tombs watch over the town as the sea stretches endlessly ahead. The water shines, the sky feels wide, and the days seem full of possibility. Fethi speaks of movement and choice. It reminds us that life offers many paths, and freedom begins when we allow ourselves to explore them without fear. Dalyan, Turkey. Dalyan flows gently between river and sea, wrapped in reeds and quiet beauty. Ancient tombs carved into cliffs glow softly at dusk, watching over calm waters. Boats move slowly, respecting the rhythm of nature. This place teaches harmony. Dalyan reminds us that progress does not require force. When we move with life instead of against it, everything feels lighter. Alicati, Turkey. Alicati dances with wind and color. Stone houses, bright doors, and blooming flowers fill its narrow streets. The breeze carries laughter and music, especially near the sea where sails catch the wind. Life here feels playful yet grounded. Alicati teaches joy. It reminds us that freedom can be lighthearted, and beauty often arrives when we stop taking life too seriously. Sirince, Turkey. Sirince sits quietly among olive trees and rolling hills. Cobblestone streets curve gently past old houses and small cafes. The village feels warm, intimate, and welcoming. Time moves differently here, slower and kinder. Sirince teaches gratitude. It reminds us that happiness is often found in small places, shared moments, and simple comforts. Bodrum, Turkey. Bodrum glows white against the blue of the Aegean Sea. Sunlight reflects off calm water as history rests gently beneath modern life. The nights feel alive, the days feel open. Bodrum speaks of balance between energy and rest, tradition and change. It reminds us that life can be vibrant without losing its depth. Turkey is not just a place you visit. It is a feeling that stays with you. It lives in ancient stone and quiet lakes, in moving water and still mountains. These lands remind us that beauty is not rare. It is waiting. And sometimes all life asks is that we gather the courage to go where our soul feels most alive.